So, hello everybody. So I'm a huge fan of CI. Oh, thanks Gavin. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of CI/CD, but I want to let red be red and or CI/CD to do what it says on the tin. So everybody in this room I'm sure is familiar with Jenkins Travis, but there's a steep learning curve and they feel quite clunky. With modern CI/CD, a lot of teams are migrating over to GitHub Actions because there's a seamless integration and faster development. However, transient errors can be annoying. They waste time and sometimes these aren't failures, you don't know what they are. It could be to environment changes and different things like that. But we now have created a workflow restarter to allow you to programmatically restart your workflows inside GitHub. So this reduces toil looking into transient failures in code, higher quality of code, greater developer satisfaction, reduced deployment failures, improved capacity and performance planning. GitHub does provide functionality to rerun workflows mechanically, rerun failed jobs in a workflow and specific jobs in a workflow. However, GitHub does not provide functionality to rerun an entire workflow programmatically. This feature could be reduce the likelihood of creating infinite retry loops on failed workflows so that may not be transient errors. And we're going to show you how you can do that using composite actions. So composite actions allows you to obtain a workflow job step into a single action that can be run as a job across multiple different workflows. It's the use of the composite action that allows us to create a proxy to restart failed workflows in the caller repository. So now we're going to get into the components of the workflow, its implementation and its usage. So there are a couple of different components to the workflow restarter. As mentioned, we have the composite action, which acts as the proxy. Now, this triggers the reusable workflow in the source repository. However, it doesn't re-trigger the workflow itself. So here it ticks in the calling repository and it will trigger the workflow restarter within the source repository. This is the implementation of the workflow restarter. It ticks the repository name, the run ID, and the number of retries. It's defaulted to 3, but you can set this to be whatever number you want. It also keeps count of the number of retries. And here we have a test. So this is how you would add the workflow restarter to a job in your existing workflow. So here we have the on failure workflow proxy, a step in the job that actually triggers our workflow restarter proxy to rerun the failed workflow. And this is the workflow inside the calling repository. Again, it's just showing you the workflow restarter and its inputs. There's that lovely silence that I wasn't dreading at all. So here we have the workflow restarter test, which has failed, and the workflow restarter has been rerun 3 times. But we can see here that this is a genuine failure because it's still red, and now we're going to get into the next steps in the next slide. So here you can rerun your workflow restarter test against different branches and provide different test states. This can be really useful to verify your expected output of your workflows within your CI/CD. So here we can see the acceptance test has failed. The latest count is 3. That's the number of retry attempts. But yeah, the unit test is passed and the acceptance is red. So I just want you to take a note of that there, because in the next slide now, the on failure workflow restarter proxy gets called. The unit test is still red, so the workflow restarter hasn't actually come into effect yet to rerun that failed unit test. Acceptance is still green. Now we can see that the on failure workflow restarter proxy has finished running, and it's still, the workflow restarter has still not come into effect yet. And hopefully now in the next slide we'll see the 3rd step here, where the on failure workflow restarter has finished running, and now we can see that the unit is orange. So that's going through a rerun of that there unit test. And notice now that the acceptance is still green. So the workflow restarter is only going to rerun the failed jobs in your workflow. And again, this is just showing you your workflow tabs inside GitHub. and the failed workflow, and that it's actually been restarted 3 times, but it's still red, so it's a genuine failure. So now, yeah, thank you. And I forgot to add the link to the GitHub repository, but yeah, I'll be around and at the pop-up booth, so if you want to, yeah, come talk to me, and if you have any questions, I'll be there. Thanks very much.